the day that really changed my life. It was 2010. I remember one of my first days of college, my roommate, he just mentioned to me, he's like, hey, this app just came out, Instagram, you should download it. I downloaded it, didn't think anything much of it. Fast forward like a year, in my critique class, I wanted to do like a photo a day project. This one teacher I had pushed me away from it. Everyone thought of Instagram as post selfies, photos of your puppy, coffee. It was looked down upon at the time. You're posting serious stuff on Instagram, that's weird. The more time went on, I realized like this is a place where I could share my work. I could look at this as my portfolio. I could look at this as a way to get more eyeballs on my work. In my gut, I had this feeling that this could be something. I started taking Instagram more seriously going forward there. I got an email. It was for Beats by Dre. Woo! I replied and said I'd do it. And because of that, I started to work with them more. And I started to get more gigs.
How much do you think the fact that you moved early on Instagram gave you that edge?
Definitely gave me an edge. Now it's so oversaturated. It's how do you stick out? There's still ways to do it, of course. One of the best pieces of advice I could give is
By the way, do you prefer Jeremy or Germ?
Jeremy.
Okay,
yeah.
cool. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, either one's fine, but I usually just go by Jeremy.
Jeremy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Especially like since COVID, germs, you know, I'm just like, you know, I'll just go by Jeremy now.
Yeah. Did you pick a spot, Jeremy, for where we're gonna
yes. And I also saw that you guys live, this spot is right down the street from the best cookie in New York.
Oh, okay.
I don't know if you guys been there. Culture Espresso.
Culture, yeah.
I don't know if you guys like chocolate chip cookies, but I mentioned we should get a couple. I want you guys to try it if you haven't had it.
That's dope. I've been to that for coffee. I've never gotten a cookie there. That's crazy.
Their cookie is really good.
Yeah, I've never been there for coffee, but I've only been there for cookies.
Yeah.
But we shot that spot for the book, and ever since then. Yeah.
For sure. I mean, I think me and Nico talked about that. Actually, me and Nico went there.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, together.
Is that how you guys know each other?
Yeah,
So
we met through the book. Yeah.
So I met Jeremy when Nico was working on his book, which is slated to come out sometime this year, right? And you were overseeing all the photography. Yeah. And I recommended a few spots to Nico, and that's how we connected.
Yep.
Cool,
Yeah. Some of those spots I still think about. Like I want to go back to Trend City. That spot was so cool. Oh my God. You just think it's just like a normal sized shop. And then you go in the back and photograph back there. There's like 100 people working. Like, they're like churning out all this food.
It's a factory.
And it's so good too.
Yeah. So for those that don't know, Jeremy, who are you?
Who am I? That's a great question. No, I'm a photographer. I am a creator. Getting more into video lately. I'm a New Yorker. Yeah, I'm a friend. I'm a brother. I don't know. I'm a son.
That's amazing.
What else am I?
So you're from New York. Not many of those.
Well, I grew up in Pennsylvania.
Okay.
Bethlehem, Pennsylvania, which is an hour and a half outside of the city. And then I moved here for school when I was 18.
Awesome.
And been here since. I'm 32 now. So been here for 14 years now, I guess.
Yeah. Where'd you go to school?
Went to SVA, School of Visual Arts on 23rd Street.
Yeah, shout out to SVA. And what did you study when you were there?
Study photography.
So you actually study photography?
Yeah. So I think looking back, I got really lucky that.
And I say that respectfully because, a lot of creator photographers were Instagram photographers is like a category of its own. A lot of them, if you talk to them, like they kind of picked it up on their own. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. I got really lucky that I found photography pretty early in my life. And was interested in it, and as opposed to a lot of photographers or creators in general that I know, you have to make this big like transition at one moment in your life. Like it's crazy that we have to decide what we want to do in life so early, right? So I'm just like lucky that I didn't have to have a crazy transition later in life and like take this huge risk and drop everything, move to another place, start a whole new thing. Like I had it easy in the sense that I kind of started early and slowly built it up.
Tell us about that. So what was your gateway into photography?
So my gateway was a couple of things. The first thing was a family vacation when I was 15 years old to Yellowstone National Park. And, at the time I was really into video games. I didn't really love the idea of going to like a national park for a family vacation, which was, look, so silly. Like that's such a cool family vacation.
But as a kid, you don't want to.
Yeah. As a kid, I was like, no, I want to stay home, play video games. I want to chill with my friends.
Yeah.
anyways, I went on this vacation, and little did I know it changed my life. I went, and my dad brought a little point and shoot digital camera. He was always into gadgets. He went to these like tech conventions and would just, I don't know, they're like these little point and shoot digital cameras were somewhat new at the time. And he brought it on this trip, and when we were hiking, my sister borrowed it from him. My sister, who's a grade below me, she borrowed it from him, started taking photos on our hike, and I got a little jealous. I saw her taking photos, and I thought they were pretty cool, and I was like, I want to try this. So I started taking some photos, and I was kind of immediately hooked. I really liked the feeling of just capturing nature.
Yeah.
At the time, you know, I took some photos of animals, took some photos of the scenery, the hikes. I mean, Yellowstone is beautiful. So yeah. I did that. And then when I came back home, I ended up enrolling in a film photography class in my high school and started doing more photography, and I got more into it, and it was still just a hobby. And so I was doing digital photography. I was learning film photography. And then it was time to apply for colleges, and I just applied to one art school. Well, I applied to a couple art schools, but not thinking I would go to art school, and ended up deciding to go to SVA.
That's crazy. So was that like 2007, 2000?
That was, yeah. So I graduated high school 2010, which is also when I went into college in New York. Moved to New York 2010.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
And then like tell me more about the evolution of your art even, right? So I'm sure you went from shooting, you know, animals and landscapes to a lot of the stuff that I see on Instagram is like, you know, portraitures, right? Mm-hmm. So like, but everything as well, by the way. Yeah. So like, tell me through talk to us about that journey.
Totally. It's interesting how it works like that. When I first started, I was just shooting everything. Mostly what I was doing, this was in high school. I also like just got my license. So me and friends would like, in Pennsylvania, there's a lot of abandoned houses and warehouse, whatever. So we would explore abandoned places around Pennsylvania, and then also did a lot of hiking, nature related stuff, camping. And I was like the one friend that brought the camera and documented everything.
Yeah,
and
you were that guy in the crew.
I was that guy, and then would post, you know, these Facebook albums.
Yeah,
so,
I was that guy actually at one point.
Yeah. I mean, it's so fun to it was so fun for me, and people appreciated it, which also felt really good.
Right.
So yeah, and that's what I was doing. And I didn't realize that I really liked portrait photography until way later, like towards the end of college. I was still like exploring up until then, like what kind of photographer I was.
Are there any photographers that influenced you like deeply? You know what I mean?
Totally. I mean, through the years, it's been different photographers. I mean, I feel like one of the first photographers I was really inspired by was this war photographer, Tim Hetherington.
Okay.
And other war photographers. One of the first things I wanted to, I was thinking about like I wanted to be a war photographer. I wanted to go in the army and like specifically to be a photographer.
That's cool. Yeah.
Yeah. But ultimately decided not to do that. And yeah, so now today I'm inspired by all different types of artists, not even as more so video creators than photographers.
Yeah. My journey as a creator, and this is about you, but I do want to share because I do think that there's a bit of overlap, is like so all of this started for me because of the Canon 5D Mark II. Mm-hmm. So like right when that camera came out, it was the first camera that could actually shoot DSLR that could shoot video.
I used to shoot on that camera.
Yeah. And so a lot of the stuff, and I've always been into music, and that camera actually got me into photography. So I was always the guy with the camcorder or with the point and shoot, but those two worlds sort of collided there. Mm-hmm. And I remember early creators. I don't know if they're still around, but do you know like Chase Jarvis?
Yeah, I used to be inspired by
yeah. So like people like Chase Jarvis, he was sort of the first one sort of giving away free game on like how to actually do it.
Yeah, I mean him and like Joey L are like two of the first photographers that really figured out social media, like how to be a photographer on social media.
Totally.
Yeah.
And it was because they were giving stuff away. Mm-hmm. They were giving away that utility. Sure, they were selling courses, maybe doing some talks, doing stuff like that. Right. But at the end of the day, that's so different from like, you know, so I got super into it, by the way, especially the portraiture stuff, because I was like, oh, this is a really good way. So, you know, you look at like the, you know, Annie Leibovitz's of the world, Jill Greenberg, Platon, like all those people. And I'm like, oh, how do you do it? And then Chase Jarvis, all these people are like, this is exactly what their lighting setup is.
Right.
Yeah. Versus other people who are gatekeeping and saying
Totally.
like, no, I'm not going to show you that. So anyway, it's very interesting to see sort of that parallel in how you got started. I guess, yeah, tell us more. So like you go to school, and then like, how did you go from photographer to creator?
Yeah, so I went to SVA. Let's see. So my journey was my first couple years at SVA. I was kind of slacking a little bit. I was new to New York. I wasn't taking school too seriously, or like kind of was. I wasn't taking the school seriously or my studies seriously. I didn't really know what I was shooting. I don't know what I was doing. It wasn't until I like really woke up at the end of sophomore year. And I was like, damn, like the thing about going to a school like SVA is you could just go to an art school and get a BFA and pass and like get a degree. Like you don't really have to do anything, honestly.
Thank you so much for clarifying this.
Yeah, the thing is you could just pass and get a degree.
You could just cruise and spend a lot of money on tuition.
And that's what I was doing the first couple of years, because that's what I saw a lot of other people around me doing.
Right.
And then like I kind of had this moment where I woke up and was like, okay, this school is so much money. I gotta like take advantage of all the resources it has. The thing about art school is if you take advantage of all the resources it has to offer and really make the most of it, then it'll be worth it.
100%.
And like, because you could, as much as you put in, that's as much as you'll get out. So, like you could rent out studios, you could rent out gear, you could connect with other people. There's so many within SVA. You could a big part about it is like the network of all these different types of artists. Like your teachers are working in the fields that you want to, my teachers were actual photographers. So, so I had this moment where I'm like, all right, I gotta do something. Like this is, So what I did was I started assisting for other photographers, and I started interning, and I interned for SNL actually, which was interesting. I interned for like a printing shop, like a high quality, like fine art printer shop, which I learned a lot from. What was the third? Oh yeah, and then I interned at Studio. What was it called? Studio 8 at what is this? Hearst Magazines.
Yeah.
So
Hearst.
These are all different types of photography. Yeah. Like I did like fine art, learned how to print and stuff, and everything about printing, which is like a whole world. I learned about still life studio photography for magazine. Where at this, I want to say it was called Studio 8 in the Hearst Tower. All these different photographers shot for all the different magazines, all the still life stuff that you see in all the magazines. So I realized I wasn't interested in that. That was cool in some ways, but not for me. Fine art, photography, printing and stuff, this world, I learned some things that are valuable, but it's not for me. And then the SNL thing, that's a whole story there, which I don't know if we want to talk about that, but I
let's talk about it. What was it about the SNL part that you kind of was, were you turned off by it?
A little bit, yeah, because I saw some things in the industry that I just didn't expect. I mean, it was cool, like being in the building, like in SNL, you see everything happen around you. I specifically was a photo intern, so I assisted for 2 different photographers. One that did photography for like in the Weekend Update, there was like those green screen photos of whatever and like the little TV screen.
And then the other one shooting the show.
Yeah, well, I did a little bit of behind the scenes of rehearsals, but the other one was what are they called? The bumpers for the featuring talent. Like there was they would do like a couple different portraits of whoever the featured artist was. Mm-hmm. And I was just surprised that I was the intern. There was also an assistant, and then there were the main photographers. And I was surprised to see like the assistants did almost all the work, and then the photographer more or less came in and pressed the button. And then,
so the assistant set it all up. Assistant
did all the work, and I just thought it was like a little backwards. And
what was it about that experience that made you think that it was backwards?
Like what? Why is the assistant, I asked him, he was getting paid like way less. And then this photographer these photographers, one of them specifically, I don't even know if she's still shooting there, but it's like pretty famous. And I remember even like on on set, we were shooting like whoever the talent was. These are like big celebrities, like us and the assistant. I mainly was learning from the assistant. I was the photo intern, assisting the assistant, and he'd do the whole setup. There's a couple different assistants, but they do the whole setup, everything. They do the test shots, and then it wasn't until we did the photo, the talent would walk on at the same time as the photographer walked on, and then the photographer would start taking some photos, and then she'd turn to the assistant and be like, "Oh, it's a little too dark. Can you change it so it's brighter?" She's like, she didn't even know what she was talking about, which I thought was like super surprising. So I was like, it made me question if I wanted to do this for a second, but
because basically you would have to climb the ladder and do what the assistant did and do that for 10 years so you could eventually get to press buttons.
Yes.
Right.
I mean, and then also I was doing this internship. This was the year before interns there at NBC became paid interns. So I was doing that. I mean, not, SNL. I thought this was a great experience. I was willing to.
You weren't paid.
I wasn't paid. I was working.
Did they at least give you a Metro card?
I don't think so. No.
Yeah,
but
when I was at Complex, that was what I got paid.
Yeah.
They
that's
gave
funny.
Me a Metro card.
That's funny though. I did when the shows ended at like around 1 a.m. is when we got to leave on Saturdays.
You got your car?
They got me a car.
Yeah.
So we did get that.
Okay.
So that was cool because I lived in like close to Broadway Junction.
Right. Like deep Brooklyn.
Yeah, I lived like off the Chauncey J train.
Wow. So like East New York.
Almost. Yeah,
Right.
I think technically Bushwick.
Right,
but it's like,
right.
The end of it. But yeah, and then I ended up actually getting fired from that internship because I was so tired. I was in school full time, and then like there's so much downtime. I would be at school Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and then would be at SNL Thursday, Friday, Saturday in like 8 to 10 hour shifts.
Wow.
Yeah.
You're working 8 to 10 hour shifts
for free.
For free.
For free. It was fucking crazy. But
so
like,
what'd you get fired for?
So we had so much, there would be so, like I would have to work sometimes, but then there would be so much downtime where I would do nothing. So in our little office that was like a closet almost, I just went under the desk and I took a little nap. And one of the other interns tattled on me and told one of the people, and I got fired.
Yo,
so
whoever that other intern was, yo, son.
But I wasn't even mad about it because I was over that internship anyways, and like, so
snitched on you. Son.
Yeah, it's fine. So and she's also like pretty successful now. This person that snitched on me, there's no beef between us. It's fine.
Right.
I think she's cool. But the other thing that I did was assist. So interned, which I just went over, and then I assisted photographers in the field. We're in New York. This is the capital of photography, in my opinion. There's like the most photographers here, the most work here.
Right.
So what I did is I remember one day, me and my friend, also a photo student, we sat down. It's really helpful to do this together. And we were like, all right, we're going to write down like 100 photographers that we look up to that we'd want to work for.
Oh, that's beautiful.
So, off the top of our head, we knew a bunch. Then we had to research and like look up New York photographers somehow. I forget how exactly we did that. But I cold emailed, not cold called, cold emailed like 100 photographers maybe. Just saying more or less, hey, my name's Jeremy. I'm a photo student at SVA. I know lighting. I know how to use these cameras. I can do this, da-da-da.
So the full gamut, everybody from like art house photographers to commercial photographers.
Yeah, because I still wasn't sure what I reached out to mostly portrait photographers because I think at that time I knew I was mostly interested in that, but I was still open. So I just said, I made a really concise email that I just sent out, and also I individualized each email. I like this about your work, because I didn't want it to seem like, I know when I get emails, I really appreciate, instead of like just going straight into what you want, like maybe just throw me a little, like say, just so that it's not a copy and paste situation.
Like Terry Richardson, I love the fact that you use a lot of Flash.
Oh man, damn. Yeah, I didn't reach out to him.
Oh, good save, good save.
Yeah. Wonder what he's up to nowadays. Or not. Anyways, so out of those 100 photographers that I reached out to, I think about 10 got back to me. So like 10% chance. And then out of those 10, I start working with 3 of them.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So I got, just from that one day of cold emailing, I got 3 gigs. And then some of them were a little bit more consistent than others. I mainly worked with one guy. And
Were they paying you, or were you offering for free?
No, this was paid.
Okay.
Although when I worked for the main photographer I worked for, Chad Botka, who was great, his client was New York Times. He shot a lot for the New York Times arts and leisure section and sports, music. Since it was New York Times, I mean, editorial just doesn't pay great. So I didn't get paid that much from him, but I did get paid, and I learned so much. It was just me and him rolling up.
What were some of the things that you learned? If you could like list a few of those out for us.
Yeah, I think the main thing I learned is confidence on set. Because before like doing these shoots, I've never been on, I'm scared to like just show. I don't know how this works. I've never been in person. I've never done this. Like imagine like never conducting a photo shoot, and all of a sudden like you get hired for a photo shoot and you just show up and shoot. You don't. So I built up so much confidence seeing how photo shoots go down, from getting there, setting up the equipment, interacting with the subject, building chemistry, to actually taking the photos. So I got to see all of this go down first person, like front row seat as the assistant.
And that was different from your experience at SNL.
Yeah, because I think at SNL, there's not that many variables that could happen. It's like in the same building, it's working with the same people, it's in the same rooms, the same equipment, same setup. It's like, you kind of just have your system down, and it's also like a bigger team. It's not like, so with me and him, it would be just me and him.
It was a very hands-on experience.
Very hands-on experience, yeah. And it was also like it was for the New York Times, so we photographed some pretty cool people in intimate settings.
Stuff that you could flex to your parents.
Yeah.
This is where the tuition went.
What was the first? I know you probably. What was the first thing that you shot that got in?
That got in?
Yeah.
What do you mean got in? Like
to the top? Like what's the way? Yeah.
That's a good question. I want to say the first one that's coming to mind right now is when we went to, I forget what the record label was, but whatever record label has Rick Ross, and we went to, was it Cash Money Records?
No, Maybach Music.
Maybach.
Yeah.
Well, he was signed to Atlantic.
Was it? I want to say we went to this record label that he was signed by in New York.
Right.
It's been so long ago now, but yeah, whatever it was, we went there and photographed Rick Ross in there, which was it was kind of funny because like there was no like connection with the photographer and him. It was like it was a little awkward. So I mean, that was a learning experience too. I realized like how important it is to really make a connection with your subject,
right, to
get better photos. Because if you're comfortable, they're comfortable, and that shows, especially in portraits, which is such an intimate experience. You can't like. So that's something I learned from that specific shoot is I know you'll get better photos if you have something to talk about. You're comfortable with each other. So,
by the way, I think you're giving away so much game. This is amazing, right? You're talking about school. You're talking about how you were grinding at SNL. You were talking about how, essentially, by the way, we're firm believers that we think everything happens for a reason, right? Yeah. So I mean, even from being fired to then, from being fired to having the fire underneath you to go out and get it, and then being put in a position with Chad or who, like to like really get thrown into the fire and like, okay, go, you got to make this happen.
Right.
So anyway, I thank you for sharing all of that with the community out there. Of course. I guess from there, how did you get to
Also, I just realized how funny it is to be fired from a job you didn't get paid for. I got fired.
What a time. What a time. Yo, like if that happened in 2024, you know how like the X like Twitter thread I was about to say, yo, that would be on fire.
Yeah.
I mean, there definitely would have been a long ass Reddit thread about it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I mean, the year after that internship, there's a whole lawsuit and interns at NBC started getting paid.
Right. Yeah,
like I was the last year that didn't get paid, which is hilarious. But yeah, anyway, sorry, what was the question?
No. So then after working with Chad and some photographers, how did you become a creator?
Yeah. So, and one of the other photographers I assisted for also named Chad. I'm just realizing how funny that is. I assisted mainly for two Chads. Chad Griffith, great guy.
Both of their names are Brian's.
Yeah. Well, really?
Yeah, Brian and Brian.
Oh no, both of our names are Brian Lee.
Yeah, they're both really? Brian Lees.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Wow, I didn't know
that's
that.
why we call them Sung. So we don't have we call them by his Korean name.
Yeah. Okay, cool. That's funny.
Yeah.
Damn.
So I mean, I kind of want to talk about Instagram because I vividly remember as an outsider, right? As an outsider looking in, there was a pivotal moment when Instagram photographer was a category of its own.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I remember that some of my friends who were also going to like art schools studying photography, they were kind of divided in these two lanes, right? It was like, nah, we keep it traditional. We're going to go assist, you know, famed photographers, and hopefully I get like a little credit in a magazine,
right,
and that's going to lead me to getting more commercial work. And then there was like a whole nother lane of just people probably that didn't even study like photography at a school, but they just kind of learned it on their own, started going into the streets and, you know, going up in like skyscrapers with the feet photos, you know what I mean? And going to abandoned buildings. And, you know, that was like a thing.
Totally.
Around like 2015-ish.
Oh, yeah, you remember. Yeah, that's
so
what popped off on Instagram back then.
So I want to talk to you about that. Like, what does Instagram mean to you? And if you could kind of share your journey with the platform.
Yeah, so my journey with Instagram, we kind of chatted about this a little bit in the elevator on the way up here, is one of my first days of college. I still remember my roommate, who was just really into apps and tech and da-da-da. He just mentioned to me, he's like, hey, this app just came out, Instagram, you should download it. And I'm like, okay. So I just downloaded it. On one of the first days it came out, this was like
2010.
It was 2010, I remember, because it was beginning of college, and I went to college September 2010. And I downloaded it, didn't think anything much of it. I posted a photo, whatever. It was just like, at the time, no one was really talking about it. It wasn't a thing. And then fast forward like a year, in my critique class at school, I wanted to do like a photo a day project was my idea. And I was interested in phone photography at the time. Like, you know, we have these devices with cameras on them. Why can't this device that's always on me, why can't I do like a photo a day? But I got pushed away from that. You know, this is like kind of my biggest regret issue with my school. This is, I don't know. I love my school for a lot of reasons, but I didn't like this one teacher I had that I wanted to do this project and push me away from it.
Explain that.
So like you said, like, there's this little it was looked down upon at the time, like to take photos on your phone at like a prestigious art school.
Yeah,
where
you're not
like,
shooting medium or large format.
Exactly.
You know,
my peers in my class were shooting like 8x10 on 8x10 cameras, or a lot of film photography, or just like, you know, bigger, more serious cameras. And like, I wanted to do this project and got very heavily like, you know, no, don't do that. You should shoot. So
you were ostracized.
In a way, yeah, I guess. It's not that serious, but right. I was like, my teacher pushed me in a different direction that in retrospect, I feel like this would have benefited me if I went more in on Instagram at the time where, you know, could have started sooner. So I had like, in my gut, I had this feeling that this could be something. And then it's just like a little frustrating looking back that I had a teacher that like pushed me away from that gut feeling. So instead I went back to, film photography. I shot stuff in my class with film, and like, that's fine, but like, yeah. So I don't know how I got there. It's just a little regret. Yeah. So it wasn't until, I veered away from Instagram. Everyone at the time thought of Instagram as post selfies, photos of your puppy, coffee, whatever. Whereas the more time went on, I realized like, this is a place where I could share my work. This could be my portfolio. I could look at this as my portfolio. I could look at this as a way to get more eyeballs on my work. Like, instead of like printing out a portfolio and setting up meetings or showing people in class, like, this gives me access to so many more eyeballs, so many more opportunities for work. So I slowly started to realize that, and I was slowly like, all right, you know, I'm not going to listen to this. I think this is the right decision to do. Why not? And it was looked down upon at the time, like slightly. People just, you know, kids in the school, not really, but you would kind of get poked fun at, you know, like, oh, you're posting serious stuff on Instagram. That's weird. Yeah, that's at the time. That's what it was.
You're talking about this.
Yeah, at the time, that's what it was though. It's like, especially like in a space for photographers, posting photos that weren't phone photos that were serious on Instagram. That's weird. And then fast forward to the day that really changed my life with Instagram is, I could look up the exact date, but I think it was one of the first days of senior year of college. on Instagram, I saw someone post an Instameet. I don't know if you guys have you guys ever been to an Instameet before?
No.
What is that?
I think it was more popular in like photography Instagram.
Okay.
Because it really had a moment for a while, Instameets. And so this guy on Instagram, Tim Cow, who his Instagram was like him and his bike. He took photos of like his bike against walls. I don't know. He had really cool stuff. It was very Instagram-y at the time, you know, very parallel lines and like he posted Instameet this Sunday, 9 a.m. It was actually in Jersey, like right across the bridge was the meetup spot. But it was a bike photography meetup. And these are two of my biggest passions. And at the time, I was like very much open to whatever the universe was bringing. And I could have it was on a Sunday morning, 9 a.m. And I was like, I remember thinking like, damn, I could just like sleep in and just chill. But like, this sounds kind of interesting. And I feel like, I don't know, something about this, I feel like I should go. It was a little scary, you know, going to like just a meetup by myself with no one I know in Jersey. I don't even know how to get there. Like, how do I get to Jersey with my bike? So I ended up taking the ferry, I think, and meeting up in the spot. Anyways, that day changed my life because I met a lot of like-minded people that saw the same potential in Instagram I did, which I didn't even realize I saw that potential. I think I just felt that, but that helped like bring it to fruition. And then I also met one of my best friends today at that Instagram meet, and also creative partner. And also I was just the best man at his wedding.
Wow.
Yes.
Give him a shout out.
Sam Morrison, Sam the Cobra on socials. He's an incredible guy. Creatively and as a friend.
And what year was this Instagram?
This was 2013. So it was my senior year. It was beginning of my senior year of college. So from that, I made a lot of connections in the Instagram community. I started taking Instagram more seriously going forward there. Started posting more actively on Instagram. And then Instagram itself was kind of involved, and they wanted to push these Insta meets because it was really good for building the app, building
IRL,
community, building IRL experiences. And the way they kind of rewarded that is, I don't know if you guys remember, there used to be a suggested user feeture on Instagram.
Wow.
So this is when people were still signing. I mean, people are still signing up to Instagram now, I guess, mostly bots, but there was still like a lot of new users. Like it wasn't even on Android yet, I believe. Maybe I'm wrong. But if you got on this list, anyone who signed up for Instagram.
So you were suggested.
So
you basically got free ad space for your page.
2 weeks, if you got picked for 2 weeks, you would, when anyone signed up, there would be suggested users to follow. Like now it's probably like all celebrities and stuff.
Yeah, it's like Kim Kardashian.
Exactly. Yeah. It's like stuff like
Ronaldo.
that. But it used to be like it used to be just like people of the community, which was really cool.
Oh, that's beautiful. So you got in early.
So yeah, a bunch at this Instagram meet. I mean, they do like the people who organize it, of course, get the suggested user, but then they started like, they pay attention to people who are active on Instagram and who are making cool stuff. And so I got picked for suggested user 2 different times. And each time I got like a bump in followers for 2 weeks. It's just like it was nonstop.
How big was the bump, by the way?
I'm trying to remember. I mean, I think like each time it was like 40K.
Okay. Wow. And this is like in 2013.
Yeah. 2013. It happened 2 different years. It was like, I think it happened 2014 for me and 2015.
Amazing. Yeah.
So I got, and then like a lot of, and I became a lot of boost. I became friends with a lot of people in this Instagram community, and it was so cool to see a lot of them get suggested user too. Like I still remember like us texting in like our group chat, yo, I just got suggested user. And it's just like, oh my God, this is like a boost. You just get nonstop followers like in the early days.
You're like, oh,
so and that was also like more inspiration that made us want to take it more seriously. And that led to my first job opportunity as a creator, as an influencer.
Which was what? Yeah.
Which was I have the email still. I don't know, in the video we could pop it up maybe. Blur out some names maybe. But,
let's do it.
I believe it was 2014. It was right when I got out of college.
So you were fresh out of college. Did you have like a job lined up?
Yeah. So my transition was when I graduated college, I was still assisting. So my whole mindset was, all right, I have no more school. I'm still going to assist to make money. And then I'm just going to work on personal work. And like, I want to be a photographer. I want to figure this out. So I'm going to go all in trying to become a photographer. And then slowly, like, it went like assisting like this. I got like a job, and then slowly it transitioned like this, where I didn't have to assist anymore and I was shooting full time.
Wow.
So it was like a pretty natural progression, which I'm really grateful for.
Hell yeah.
So walk us through that first opportunity when they reached out to you. How did it come?
Yeah, so I got an email, and it was for Beats by Dre.
Woo! That's a good one too.
Like,
and it was what, 2014?
This was 2014.
This is a good time because
this is right before they were going to get acquired
by Apple.
Yeah.
It was right around that time. They were
I guess
spending a lot of money.
Probably like right before that. Yeah. I got the email. This was also like, it was a quick turnaround. It was to do a video, actually, which I wasn't really doing videos. I was just a photographer. Instagram, I think, recently came out with video.
Right.
Somewhat, maybe in the past year, maybe. And this was for a campaign. They're reaching out to different creators to do a Beats by Dre solo selfie, which was you wear the Beats by Dre, the over-ear headphones, and you take your camera phone or whatever camera, but you take it and you go from one beat, one ear, and you go, and then around to the other ear, transition, different setting. It's like TikTok ahead of its time. Now that I think of it, with the transitions. So I remember receiving that email, and I got so scared. I was so scared.
Why
I didn't even want
to.
I felt like, I remember feeling like I didn't deserve it. Like I didn't.
Did they offer you a price, or did they ask you, hey, what's your rate?
They offered me a price.
Okay.
Do you remember what that price was?
Oh, I remember it. Okay. It was my first gig. I remember it.
How much was it?
And at the time, I thought it was crazy. Like, I did not deserve this much money. And looking back, it's funny because, like, you know, it was $500 to do a video, post it on my channel, which so excited for. Didn't think I deserved that money to do. You know, looking back, I wouldn't charge that for a post now. And I remember sitting on the email for like a day or two, just going back and forth, having what's this thought? What do you call this?
Doubt.
Yes, but imposter syndrome.
Imposter syndrome. Yeah.
And then I replied and said I'd do it. And it was also weird timing because this was when I was on a ski trip with my friends, and it was like it'd have to be due while I was on this trip. I got the email like right before I left for the trip, and I was like, you know what, I'll do it. So, and I made the video. Was really proud of it, and I did well. I remember them telling me, I think it was like out of all the creators, I think they told me something like it was their second favorite video, or it was one of their, I know it wasn't their favorite, but it was like their second favorite or their second best performing or whatever it was. And because of that, I started to work with them more. Wow. And I started to get more gigs. And this was through Cycle. I don't know if you guys remember this. It was, the agency is called Cycle, which was under Laundry Service.
Yeah, I remember them. Yeah. Shout out to all my guys that used to work over there.
Yeah, have a lot of good people there.
So we were just talking about your first brand deal, and you said that there's another deal or a sponsor post that you took care that you did that you want to share with us.
Yeah, in the early days, I'm currently scrolling back to find it. But yeah, to this day, I still, if I get an opportunity where I could do a branded post or just like any cool work opportunity, I still like to think back on how fortunate and lucky I am to even be in this spot. Because sometimes I get a job and I'm just like, my initial thoughts are like, oh, whatever, I don't really want to do this. I get a little cocky and full of myself.
Of course,
like,
people get jaded.
Yeah. And I gotta zoom out a little bit and just be like, yo, I'm so lucky to be here 100%. And just like shoot this stuff. Like, why am I complaining right now? So yeah, still scrolling back. Damn, I've taken a lot of photos. It's so cool for any creator to just like scroll back in your feed and just every once in a while just look what you made, because sometimes you don't realize that you've improved as a storyteller, as a photographer. You can see the progress. Like, I'm looking back in some of my feed, like some of these photos I took pretty whack, but it's part of, it's important that I shared it, got it out, and you just the more you do anything, the better you get.
100%. Thank you so much for sharing that. Absolutely. Yeah. I think it's important to keep moving forward, and to, so many people never do what they love and are passionate about because they think too much about trying to do it perfectly. But then it's you, it's me, it's us that are like, you know what, it's gonna be imperfect, but we're gonna do it. Totally. And when we look back, go look back at the first episode of Righteous Eats. It's way different than what it is today. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Right. It's way. I can literally show you my first music videos, my first vlogs on YouTube in 2009, 2000. Dude, it's gonna be horrible.
Of course.
It's gonna be horrible. Yeah. But look where we are now.
Exactly.
Right? And I'm excited to look back at this time, 5 years later. We're like, wow. Yeah. Like we were doing that at a WeWork meeting room.
Yeah.
You know?
Hey.
Yeah. So yeah, what did you wanted to share with us?
Oh, I was gonna say also to add to this, I think it's just another thing to mention. It's something I think about is the progression that we all make as artists. It's one of the biggest misconceptions is it's not linear. It's all scattered. Like we expect to just like, I mean, I've never been in the corporate world, so I don't know if this is how it works, but I think you kind of climb that ladder and just like go up. You kind of know where you're going. Every year, you get a raise, you get a bonus, whatever. Like being an artist, being a creator, you gotta like, you go a little forward, you get a big win, and then you'll get a big loss and go. You gotta be able to like mentally prepare that in the long run, you're gonna improve, but it's not gonna be a straight line.
Yeah, it's like in stock terms, this is like a little bit more volatile. This isn't like investing in like an ETF, an S&P 500, where it's like, you know what I mean? It's more like, oh, there's a bump. You know what I mean? Like,
it's not linear. It's a cosine basically.
Yeah.
Like, right. And you have to. I mean, I use this phrase way too much, but you can't make records without grooves, right? It's literally it's the downs that literally make the sound. You know what I'm saying? It's literally, it makes the sound. The struggle, that's how you write a song. It's all of that, right?
I never made this connection before, but I guess artists are a lot like people on Wall Street more than I realized because of this.
We also say this all the time. No, I mean, the thing is like business, and we are very much into business. Business is an art. I actually think everything is an art because at the end of the day, you're using your creativity. You're using a different set of, you have a problem set ahead of you. Problem set that's typically associated with like math, right? But at the end of the day, it's all about how you can solve a problem that you're trying to solve creatively, right? Like at the end of the day, that's what it is.
Right.
So, if you're a producer on a film set, if you're a photographer, if you're a doctor, it could be anything. At the end of the day, you're trying to solve that.
Totally.
Using all the skill sets and all the variable, all of the tools that you have in your bag. You know what I mean? But so when you were working for the Chads, then you were basically, it was still a side hustle, right? You were just an active, real member of the Instagram community, and it started popping off. And then just gradually, what the first one being Beats by Dre, you started getting more and more gigs. Is that what happened?
Yeah, and I'm looking back in my feed now and remembering how I started to get gigs, which I still think holds true now to one of the best pieces of advice I could give to like up and coming photographers, or if you want to start getting work, is, especially with all the tools we have now, is anybody with a camera can take a good photo, no matter who you are. If you're in the right place at the right time and you just snap a pic, these cameras can have automatic settings, right? If you're at the right place at the right time, you can take a photo. But what separates you from other people is being able to tell a story with a project, with a series of photos, telling one cohesive story with a string of photos. And that will show potential clients, that will give you the best, how do I put this in the words? That will give you the best chance to get work with potential clients.
Can I press you a little bit on that? So with that philosophy, now, do you look back on your time at SNL and how things were in terms of the hierarchy? Do you have a different point of view on that? Because essentially what you're saying is, the tools are getting better and better, right?
Yeah.
So at the end of the day, all of that is becoming, technology is deflationary. All of that is becoming a commodity. So actually what separates the great artist now is the ability to find where to point the camera or how to capture and extract it. Do you have a different point of view now? Because I certainly do. I still look at certain things and I'm saying, yo, man, photographer comes in, pushes a photo, pushes a button, and they're out, right?
Yeah.
But another part of me is like, okay, well, the art direction, how they're, you know, like the creativity of like what we're gonna do, what kind of expression, even if it is a very controlled environment, what am I gonna try to pull? You know what I mean? So it's all these other intangibles and all that experience and all that wisdom and all that being able to sort of craft a narrative that goes into it.
Yeah.
Like, when you were 20, is that any different now that you're 32?
So me as an artist at 20, how I think now.
Well, how you look at how it used to be, because I thought you gave really great game in that, like, yo, don't worry about the tools. When I was starting with the Canon 5D, everyone used to always leave comments saying, what kind of camera is that?
Totally.
Right? Or what kind of camera should I get?
Yeah.
And then
I mean, people still do that. It still holds true now. And I think,
and what's your answer to that? My answer is always whatever camera you use. So it's your phone. It's your phone.
I mean, my answer to it is story is king. The story is the most important thing out of anything. It doesn't matter. Like, that's why you see all these, you know, TikToks, reels going viral. It's not how high quality it is. It's not how, I mean, sometimes it's how beautiful it is. Sure. It's like, but it's how relatable that story is. And a lot of times I make, you know, it's funny because I got a photo degree. I know how to use cameras and stuff, but I sometimes make a creative choice to just shoot things on my phone if it makes sense for whatever story I'm telling. Because a lot of times, shooting on a phone using the certain typeface that's like within TikTok or Instagram, that feels more native. And not sometimes I notice sometimes when you shoot stuff too high quality, it could feel like an ad without it being an ad.
You know, the intros to the YouTube version of this, we purposely still use the iPhone microphone. Yeah. I mean, it's partly the sound is really good because it's corded. But, you know, even if you go back to 2020, 2021, it's not that we didn't have these mics. We literally had the same mics. We had lavs, we had Sennheiser mics. We did that so that it felt more organic and more native.
Yeah, I think that's really smart.
And personally, I just love those headphones.
Yeah. And it's a good visual element too, I think, on top of that.
Totally.
On top of the sound quality feeling more relatable. Yeah. But yeah, wait, so speaking of this, these early projects, I did want to mention I think this is kind of interesting. One of the first projects I did, because I'm looking back in my feed trying to find that sponsored post I was talking to you about. But one of the first projects I did was called Emoji Portraits, because I wanted to do a project that was native to Instagram, that, you know, people on Instagram, they're not like in my art school class where you could critique a photo for, I wanted to make it more surface level, relatable. So I did emoji portraits where I would, you know, emojis were kind of somewhat new at the time. It was like and it was also the universal language. No matter where you were, you can understand an emoji. So I did different photos where I like photoshopped in an emoji.
Oh, okay.
Let's see. So something like that. I mean, looking back, it's kind of silly, but you know.
Oh, okay. Oh yeah. I think
you can see my works come along. You know, I wouldn't shoot anything like this now, but it's nice to look back on. I even did like some GIFs.
Yeah. So you were like constantly trying to figure out ways to make it make sense specifically for the platform, and also engaging your audience at the level that, by level, I don't mean high or low, just level that they are comfortable in.
Yeah.
And I mean, even more broadly, he was just being creative and like trying stuff.
100%. Yeah.
Right.
Well, that's very smart, man. Like,
thanks.
Can I ask you, so when did you start calling yourself a creator?
I guess when the term became more popularized. It's kind of, I'm conflicted. What do I call myself? I still don't really know, because I'm traditionally a photographer. I've moved more into taking a lot of videos now, but I wouldn't necessarily consider myself a filmmaker. Creator, I like that word. I think the one thing I don't like about it is it makes me, sometimes I say creator, just like feels a little bit like God.
Right.
Like God, the creator. I don't know. Yeah, sometimes I think about God when people say creators.
I just tell people that I'm a TikToker.
You know, that's
right.
We actually think that's deliberate, though. No, because No, because, you know, when we say creator, community, serve, utility, when you talk about a K-pop idol, or when you talk about a celebrity that has a cult of personality, all of these things are because real creators, in our estimation, in our opinion, are people that actually have a dialogue and a direct connection with the people that watch them, read them, see them, whatever it might be. That's completely different than someone that you just see on screen performing, or someone on TV selling. Like, it's completely different.
Right.
There's like a different sort of
a connection to it.
Yeah. So you like the word?
Well, I like the word, and we think wildly about the word. Yeah. Like, you know, when we think about Patreon, that's tithing. When you agree to give someone $5 a month, $10 a month, that's no different from the tithing at church or at the temple or at whatever, right? There's no difference between if I'm wearing a Jeremy Cohen shirt, that's no different than me rocking a cross or a Star of David or whatever. These are all things, right? You know, the ritual of, it's ritual, right? The ritual of turning in and tuning into like a Kai Cenat live stream. That's no different than going in on a Friday or a Sunday or whatever, you know?
Yeah. I was on Twitter this morning seeing the Drewski Kai Cenat live stream clips of it.
Exactly.
Yeah. They are like cults, mini religions, like being fans of creators.
Is that wild?
It's crazy to think about. Yeah. But it makes sense.
And that's why we're so... That's why it's so important, especially in today's day and age. It's like, and look, we live in an attention economy where people are constantly fighting for your time. There's an overload of information.
Yeah.
So the best creators and the communities that you want to belong to, what are they? They're the things that help you either save time or provide you more signal to what you're into, right? So it's like, oh, this person's gonna teach me all about Chase Jarvis for me in 2008, right? I was like, oh yeah, he's gonna help me figure this out, right? Or if I'm watching someone that's, you know, I was watching like lectures, you know what I'm saying? Like, oh, cool. What I could get in a Stanford ETL lecture in 1 hour, I don't have to go to, you know, 3 years of business school, right? It's like, it's all of that. And now it's not only an hour long lecture, it's a 60-second like short clip. Right now, your full-time gig is basically you still shoot as a full-time as a photographer, but then you also make stuff for yourself. What's that split like? Is it 50-50? Is it?
Yeah. Let's see. I don't know the exact numbers, but if I were to just divvy it up in my head right now, I'd say about 15 to 20% of my work is like influencer related, like stuff that I'm posting on my channels, whether it's TikTok or Instagram.
15 to 20%.
15 to 20%.
Okay.
Yeah. And then I'd say the rest of it, a lot of it is one of my main shticks is quick turnaround content. So I do a lot of this for brands.
Interesting.
As a small team too. So I found this little type, how do I put this? Found this little hole in the industry where, you know, we live in this world on Instagram where there's these events or whatever that they happen, and by the next day, about 2 days later, that's old news.
Yeah.
You don't want to post about, for example, a music festival.
Yeah.
I've over the years have shot a lot for GovBall.
Right.
And I've been along with have a lot of photographer friends that I do it with. It's so much fun every year. But we'll shoot the artists, the whole festival. We're all assigned to shooting different things at the festival, and it's all quick turnaround, right? Yeah. You have to turn it, like you shoot it and you turn it around right away, and they're posting it live as it's going. By that festival's Friday, Saturday, Sunday. By Monday, they might post a couple recaps, and then maybe throughout the year spread some of the content here and there. But like,
and it's a blend of video and
photo, but that's like all right away, and that's what I do for different clients too, for like different types of events.
So I mean, you're essentially doing like editorial recap, but instead of having to do it through like Getty Images and the AP, you own your own distribution and you have a direct relationship with the vendors.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
You are a vendor to the clients, I should say.
Yes. Yeah, I listened to some of your other podcasts of people having like, even like Katie Romero, who I love. I think she's awesome.
Oh, shout out to Katie.
Yeah, I'm glad you guys had her on the last episode. I've met her a couple times. She's inspiring to me. She's such a hustler. She's like making content every day. I don't know how she does it. But yeah, I think she mentioned how important it is to have like a middleman, like a manager, someone to like help out, which I agree in a lot
proxy.
of. Yeah, a proxy. That's the term she used. I agree in a lot of ways. Like it's really hard to, as a creator, just focus, like to be able to focus on the creator. Like there's so much, people don't realize there's so much stuff behind the scenes that goes in besides actually creating 100%. Whatever you're creating. Yeah. That's probably like, creating might be like 5, maybe 10%.
Right.
I would say, which is also what I got taught in photo school. I remember them telling me specifically, like, if you're going to be a photographer one day, taking photos is just 5% of the gig.
Yeah, it's the person coming in, pressing the button.
Yeah, at SNL.
Yeah.
Or it's Damien Hirst. Like when Damien Hirst makes something, right? You think he's making it? No, it's a team of 25 people that come in and he's like, do this.
Right. Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, it's having a relationship with the gallery. It's having a relationship with the editorial. Like, it's all this other stuff, right?
Yeah, it is so much other stuff. Like I'm really grateful. I'm getting a lot of work and have a lot of good clients. And I would consider, you know, I'm successful in some ways as a photographer. And I look around and I see other people that are so much more talented than me in different ways, that are making insane stuff. And like, some of these people are having a tough time getting work. And that just goes to show it's like, there's so much more to it. A lot of it is relationship building, like building up trust and having reliability with clients and like being, so it's interesting how it works like that. It's a people business. Something I use to my advantage is which is also why I love taking portraits, is I consider myself a people person, just like my mom. I grew up with my mom saying hi to everyone in the supermarket. I was a little embarrassed by it. Fast forward today, I'm saying hi to people in the supermarket, strangers, and my girlfriend's like, stop. And I'm like, no, you know, give a little smile, you never know, it can make their day. Right. And that goes into the, you know, into work too. Constantly, I'm just saying hi to, just be nice to people. It feels good. And also you never know what connections you'll make, what opportunities will come out of this, whether it's like work related or maybe you'll make a friend. I don't know. So that's like something I really inherently learned from my mom, just being around my mom. Yeah. And it's helped me in business just by.
So I want to ask, you were just saying that you have colleagues and friends and acquaintances who are super talented, but is not getting as much work probably as you do. How much do you think that Instagram, your early move, like the fact that you moved early on Instagram, gave you that edge?
Definitely gave me an edge. I mean, time, you know, it's so much harder back then, so much easier to like grow followers. And once that app was coming up, now it's so oversaturated. It's how do you stick out? There's still ways to do it, of course. Like you just have to work that much harder. But at the time, it wasn't oversaturated. So if you were, you know, there weren't that many New York photographers on Instagram at the time. There weren't that many people with like followers at the time. It was more of a unique thing. It's more enticing for clients.
I think I don't know. So the question's interesting, but I think like, sure, one part of it is there's always going to be a fast mover or early adopter advantage, always. Mm-hmm. But I would actually say that the ability to do that is actually the ability, you know, the same way that it's the ability to network or the ability to like, it's something else, I think.
Yeah. I guess my question was really, you know, because we live in an era where your presence on social media is your portfolio, is your business card, is your LinkedIn page, is your resume, right? Especially if you're an artist or a creator, or specifically a creator with a photography as the focus. And, you know, the fact that you have a substantial amount of followers on Instagram, and the fact that you have fluency in the platform, and, you know, but you're also trained in the traditional method of photography. Like, my guess is that you're like a full package that is very, you know, appetizing for clients to work with.
Yeah, no, I didn't think about it that way, but I got a couple different, I got the background in social media and the background in traditional photography.
Yeah, but I think as a business, that's no different from like, you know, you had the savvy to buy Dumbo property early when you were also someone that was in real estate, that's someone that could GC the project, that's someone that could interior design. So like you had all of that stuff set up and you're at the right time at the right place, and now you're able to capitalize on that. That's fine. I think the more interesting question is like, how do you continue to capitalize on that, and where are you going to go when inherently like those gains are up? So you know.
Yeah, no, it's a good question, because it makes me think about in the early days of Instagram, when we had this whole community of photographers and everyone was getting wins in different ways. A lot of people are just doing something totally different and not really active on Instagram anymore, even though they had this early adoption opportunity, and they just didn't continue to progress, or maybe became disinterested or something. But like, okay, so my point is, if you stay stagnant like that, you have to always keep improving and switching things up and going outside of your comfort zone. So for example, a common thing that I personally see among my peers, specifically photographers, and when there was this like major shift from photo to video, where there's TikTok coming out, Instagram releasing video. Remember how people are so mad about that? Like, Instagram's a photo platform. Why do they have video? This is gonna ruin it.
What did you think about that?
So I tend to lean towards, I'm open-minded, right? Whenever these new features, platforms, whatever trends come out, it's so easy to be salty about it. Like, it's so easy, like as a photographer, video comes out, no, this is gonna ruin Instagram, That's the easy thing to say, right? And like, yeah, I was a little salty about it. Like, I don't want to, but there's no stopping it, right? What are you gonna do? You're gonna complain? They're gonna be like, oh yeah, no, you're right. Yeah, we're gonna put it back. No, they gotta grow their app. That's where it's going. There's smart people behind these things. They know what they're doing.
Yeah.
So instead of like thinking about it like that, I was like, you know what? I'm gonna learn video. Maybe I'll mess around with this. I'll try. And my point being, a lot of photographers still, there's like this fear of going to video, because, which I understand because I felt it too, is like once you've been taking photos for a while and you're really comfortable with it and good at it, switching to video and like starting to post that on your page where you've been posting like really good stuff, really good photos, and then becoming a beginner again and starting to share this, that's fucking scary.
But that's human nature though.
Yeah, of course. And that's but it's really important to make that switch from my personal experience, because most of my gigs now, I'm a photographer, but most of my gigs are video.
Yeah.
And it's a whole different ball game to learn when you're especially when you're shooting on like, you know, big cameras where you have to do all these certain features. It's not like iPhone, you just record, it's awesome. But you know, for these cameras, you got to put filters on, you got to shoot at certain settings, you got to shoot and yeah.
Right now, 80% of your revenue is from photo and from agency, and I keep saying agency, like you running a successful business and an agency that produces film, video for other clients, right?
Yeah.
And then 15 to 20% of your business is stuff that includes you as talent that you're making for yourself on behalf of another client, right?
Yeah.
With you being the principal.
Yeah.
In 5 years, what do you think that split's going to be?
So to be honest, I think one of my weaknesses is I don't think about the future too much. I probably should. It's such a valid question. I've been kind of taking it day by day, month by month for a while, not planning ahead too much, and just see how things unfold naturally, which I know isn't the best strategy, but I haven't ever been like on the strategic side. Like, I know one of the questions in the pre-pro is like, your audience, how much is male and female, I never checked these things. I even tried to check before I got here just because I thought I don't even know how to find it. I couldn't find it on my Instagram.
We can show you.
Yeah. So these are things I just like, for me, I know it could help me in a lot of ways, but I just don't think about it. But to answer your question, in 5 years from now, where do I see myself? I think the short answer is working less and getting paid more. Long answer is I could see myself having some help, working with a couple other people, maybe building a little 3-person agency. Cause you know, like my friend Sam, who I mentioned before, we work together so well, and I don't know, it's just easier to do bigger projects when it's not just yourself.
100%.
But what do you do when? So again, I'm gonna drill in a little bit. What do you do when they want you to do more for less? Because your 5-year goal is to do less and get paid more.
Yeah.
They literally want to continue paying less for you to do more. And even you doing what you're doing right now is already you getting paid less to do more than your contemporaries that were right above you. We talk about this all the time. Jake owned and ran his own agency, his own marketing agency, right? Mm-hmm. And he knew that he was in a niche where, again, you could go to BBDO, you could go to, Sidley, you can go to whoever, RGA, and those budgets are big because there's like 10 people in the room, right?
Right.
So he's like, yo, you don't need 10 people in the room. You want an activation with this spirits brand, and I'll do that. You know what I'm saying?
I'll do that for like 1/3 of the price.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Exactly, right? But the thing is, it's going to constantly go where two things are happening. Number one, the brands are saying, why do we even need to go to RGA? Why do we even need to go to WPP? Why do we even need to do that?
Yeah.
We'll go directly. We'll just DM them. We'll literally DM them. If we think that this person is perfect for our target demo, we'll just go directly to them, right? And number two, even within all of that, it's getting easier to do better. So it's harder to justify asking for more. What do you think about this?
Damn. Yeah. No, I like that you're pushing these. I haven't thought about that. Yeah, I was just generally answering it, but damn, this is something I got to think about now.
No, yeah, for sure. I mean,
but it's a really good question you're bringing up. Like what? Yeah, I'm just like saying that without even thinking about it.
I mean, we talk about this all the. By the way, I'll very candidly and keep getting that paper, right? Keep getting them checks. I think for as long as it takes these clients to figure this out, keep cashing checks, right? I mean, we say this to our other friends that own agencies. It's like right now they're in that really nice sweet spot where they used to spend, X brand used to spend $2 million to do this campaign with a big agency, right? Now they just found out that they could spend $500,000 directly working with our friend that has an agency that has run and gun shooters, that has all this other stuff, right? And can turn it around very quickly.
Right.
Similar that you can.
But that $500,000 is now going to be divvied up. It's like, yo, instead of us doing some fancy campaign with drone shots, like I'll split that $500,000 amongst 50 different creators.
Yeah.
And I'm probably going to get more market share and eyeballs that way.
Yep. So it's crazy how much the industry changes so quickly.
So my friend who was considered savvy maybe 7-8 years ago is now going to be the wash guy that's going to be a little bit salty about now his pie getting divvied up.
Of course, you know what I mean? Of course. It makes me think of with what I mentioned before, with what I do with the quick turnaround content. I think a lot of the gigs I do with that, it used to be like a whole team of people like shooting video and like all these people, all these different moving parts and editor, and now like different brands realize they could hire like one person like me. And it's just like one of the benefits of hiring me at some of these places is it's like the less bodies, the better. Like you don't want a whole team of people covering an event with like 100 people and like, over 10% of those people are like, or more people are crew than not. Yeah, sorry, I'm just going on a tangent here.
Yeah, not at all.
But yeah, no, it's interesting how quickly the business can change.
But you were also very adaptive, right? Because you explained that your colleagues and peers in school were like, wait, what? You use an Instagram to post serious photos. And you said, fuck that. I'm going to lean into that. And now you are able to get to where you are. And I guess the question for us, and this isn't a question directly at you, it's just an open question, because that's something that we want to figure out as well. Like, okay, what is going to be the next thing that we need to index on? Because eventually, these brand deals that we're getting right now because of a little edge that we have on short form content is eventually going to dry out too, because this is not like a 24-hour ATM that we could just constantly check in on. You know what I mean? So we want to figure out, like, collectively as creators, like, yo, what's next? Well, how can we get a head start on that?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
And I don't even think it's just creators and what's next. I think it's what are the things that we know to be true today that will inevitably not be true tomorrow? What are the opinions and the things that we hold on to that have put us into this position that will no longer be relevant later on? And those are questions that like are really hard to ask of yourself when you're sitting atop the perch or in the position that you're in, right?
Yeah.
It's like, who's going to constantly think about, okay, all these things that I did put me in this place where I'm okay, I'm comfortable, I'm whatever. Okay, great. Let's talk about tearing down the thing that I actually used to be successful. But that's what's happening, right? And it's really hard for an old school photographer, like who I've met a lot of those, to be like, oh no, you guys are gonna start shooting on digital cameras, and then it's like, oh wait, now I shoot on a digital Hasselblad. Okay, great. What, now you're shooting on a phone? Now I shoot on a phone, right? And then it's like, oh wait, why do you even need to shoot on anything when you could make it in Mid-Journey or make it in, you know what I'm saying? So like, the question isn't more direct. It's not an indictment of like what you're thinking about. It's just, we're always just trying to tap into like, okay, what are the things that we know to be true that aren't going to be true tomorrow?
Totally. Yeah, it's a really good point bringing up.
Speaking of Mid-Journey, have you been?
Yeah, do you use any of the tools?
I've played with it, yeah. I don't think it's for me, but I've seen some people do some pretty cool stuff.
Yeah.
And also, rightfully, I understand why a lot of people are salty about it. It's scary. It's scary in a lot of ways. I think overall, though, yeah, how you could tell a story, the human using the tool, the way you could, however, I just like to think as AI as like another tool I can maybe use in some way within.
100%.
But yeah, I mean, I know you, I think, yeah, I read about your background with Maker Studios and stuff. I don't know. Do you know Philip DeFranco personally?
I know Phil, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So I'm a big fan of his show.
Yeah.
And I was actually watching his show this morning before I came here. And one of the topics was AI books that on Amazon right now, you're allowed to sell AI related products, things such as books, but there's a lot of AI books. A lot of people are making these AI books.
Like AI books as in like books made from
physical books,
using ChatGPT?
Physical books that you could buy on Amazon that are created by AI, like biographies of famous people. So like it showed this one famous person, I forget his name off the top of my head, but like he was on a podcast, was live looking at books of himself on Amazon. He couldn't even find his own biography. He went through, there were all these other biographies written by people he had no idea who they were. It was AI.
Wow.
So that's like,
so the regulation have to come in.
yeah, the regulation is gonna get worse before it gets better, I think.
Right.
Yeah, I don't know.
So it's only I mean, I've been saying this for the last 2 years. It's like, ladies and gentlemen, if y'all ever see or hear me doing some foul, flagrant shit in the next 18 months, best believe is not me.
Yeah.
It's some app, it's somebody that's misusing my image and likeness using AI. You know what I mean?
I think that's, but I actually think, I mean, what an amazing business. Someone's savvy enough to understand that, like, if I want a biography on Jeremy Cohen and it doesn't exist right now, I can use I'm the person with the fluency to be able to prompt this machine to now go ahead and aggregate probably a transcript of this recording combined with any other stuff that you've done and can give me a thing. Dude, that's dope, actually.
But I
morally,
no, but I think even outside of morally,
but if you're giving attribution, you might even give your rev share. So like,
hold up,
that would be genius. I know. Oh, sorry, I interrupted, but I know when speaking on this, what artist was it? Grimes. When AI, the Drake song came out, AI. You guys remember that? The Drake AI song? And it was it was so good.
Yeah, it was a great song.
And artists, these labels, it's scary because they're like, damn, you made a good song with impersonating this person. I thought it was really interesting when Grimes put out, she tweeted, I think, or something, if anyone wants to make an AI song of me, and I'll give you 50% revenue.
That's what I'm saying.
So like, that's a genius.
Yeah, I mean, look, AI, Opus AI is used to take.
So I just wanted to talk about that biography part because, I mean, I don't know. Again, I haven't read the biographies of this famous person and if the particular famous person actually did a fact check of the AI versions of the biographies. But I think more so than, I mean, I agree with you on the rev share part and the possibility of that scaling into a very good business. is more so from a product standpoint. Is it a good product? As in, if it's a biography, I want that shit to be correct.
No, totally.
And are you, because AI right now is not at a level where even if you give them a good prompt that they could provide everything that is factual.
Just to be super clear, I look at possibility rather than the actual product.
Yeah,
right
I get
now,
you.
right?
Yeah. So in that sense, I totally agree with you. But I just also wanted, I think that was my hesitation and reservation. Like, yo, if you're going to sell a product, is it going to be a good product? I don't care if it comes from AI or not.
I'm a firm believer that the market will then, like, you could put that up, but if it's a shitty product, one person might buy it once, but 300,000 people aren't going to buy that over and over and over again, right? So like, but the actual, my philosophy is exactly like Grimes in that, like, yo, if this is a possibility, go ahead and here's a library, go ahead and make stuff, right? And the example that I was trying to give with Opus AI or Opus Clip AI is that, like, in the early maker days, people would get very upset. The only way, if you guys follow gaming content at all, the reason why Machinima existed, the reason why Maker Studios existed in the beginning was because people were playing games, Blizzard games, and that's actually good to have other people play your game and make content around it, right? But then they're like, yo, we own that IP. And I'm like, yeah, but that's free marketing for you guys. You know what I'm saying? So now with Opus Clip, it's like, there's all these people that'll take podcasts like this and clip it and put it up. You can go ahead and copyright claim all that, or you could say, go ahead and do it. So if someone takes a part of this and says, oh, this was an inspirational thing that Jeremy said, I think that's good for everyone involved, right? So and especially if you could, so it's like, I'm gonna lean way more towards the Grimes version of that than the UMG version of that. But I think it's only a matter of time until UMG has to figure out and will figure out, okay, we can do this too, but we'll do it under some like creative license with the platform so that we get. By the way, and this is what was happening with YouTube.
Eventually going to happen.
Yeah, YouTube, right? Yeah.
And what's your biggest pain point right now? What's your biggest struggle as a creator and as a photographer doing what you're doing right now?
I think imposter syndrome and feeling the need to just like keep up with everything happening. Everything's moving so fast, and I think, you know, it's a blessing and a curse being a one-man show. I don't know what term to use for that. One-man show, one-person team. Because I've had some experience. I have worked with people in the past. I've had managers, but have a little trust issues there. I tend to like answer emails faster than a manager would, and sometimes I'm not like CC'd on emails. I don't know if they responded. I don't know if I'm losing out on jobs, you know. Right. So turns out like I do a lot of admin work for myself.
Yeah.
And yeah, where was I going with this?
Well, we were just trying to figure out how we could help, right?
Yeah.
And by the way, as someone that also had a lot of difficulty trusting, because look, at the end of the day, I feel like I could do the job faster.
Yeah.
You know, sure, that might be true in some instances, but you know, it's that cliche of, you know, you want to go fast, go alone. You want to go far, go together, right?
Totally.
So it's like, there's no right or wrong answer, but I definitely think that to be true.
Yeah. And the other way I agree with that statement, but the other way I think about it is one of the things we inherently as creators just feel is the right thing to do. I don't know if you guys can feel this, but is like I think it's great that we always should improve and grow and get bigger. But it's been especially interesting. I've been thinking about it with this trend this year of all these YouTubers quitting. I don't know if you guys have seen this, but like a lot of big YouTubers have quit YouTube this year. It's been a trend.
Ooh.
I mean, what are some of their names? I don't even know. Or even like downsized. Like for example,
Phil's not
Phil's not one of them. Like someone like Matt D'Avella. You know him. So he was pretty open about his strategy this year, where he didn't quit YouTuber. There's been a lot of big YouTubers that have been like OGs that have been like quitting. Matt downsized. He thought it was really interesting. He thought it would be easier by growing, etc. He would build a team out, have a writer, have someone edit his videos, have someone come up with his scripts, and he realized he was doing so much managing, he wasn't enjoying it as much, and he wasn't necessarily even making more money after splitting it up, and like he was actually making less videos by working with more people. This is just his experience. Yeah. And now he's working by himself again after building up a 10-person team. He's back to just doing everything himself, which I thought was interesting. But my point being is like we want to grow, make more and more money, and I mean I want that too in some ways, but I'm also pretty happy now that I was in that mindset a couple years ago, and now I've like settled down some ways in my life. I turned 30. I'm 32 now. I turned 30. I moved out of Bushwick, which was like a, you know, everything happening, you know, party scene, going out about. I moved from Bushwick to Clinton Hill, moved in with my girlfriend. I'm like enjoying like a slower pace of life in that sense, but also in the work sense where I'm not like my 20s, I was like hustling nonstop, you know, and like trying to get more and more. And now I'm like settle a little bit, and yeah, I'm not growing as much, and I am pushing myself in some ways, but I'm not like pushing really hard, like trying to get bigger. And in some ways that's a bad thing, but in some ways it's also a good thing that I've slowed down a little bit. And I think it'll come in waves for me. Like I think I'll want to like, you know, be more strategic about growing in the future. But yeah, at this moment I'm just like making stuff, but also spending some time to chill.
Yeah, I mean, you're getting wiser, right? I mean, I think that's
or
wisdom.
Older.
Yeah,
but
I mean, yeah, you know, youth is wasted on the young, right? So it's a matter of understanding and just being more strategic, right? Mm-hmm. And it's having all the benefits of having a long life and going through things, but then being able to actually apply that so that you can make most of what you're actually doing day to day. I think the YouTube thing, I'm gonna have to look into that. I think that's very interesting, and I think that actually is going to happen. I think two big trends are gonna happen in terms of creators. I think one, I think it will go towards less. I think there's gonna be a big push towards just doing less and trying to like just forfeit and say, yo, I know I want to be at the forefront of your algo and at the front of FYP, but I think there's going to be a deliberate push towards, I want to, like, you know how there was fast food, the McDonaldization of food.
Yeah.
And then there was this big move towards like slow foods.
Well, this trend is already happening. Saying I think of retention editing when I think of this, like Mr. Beast style, like something's happening every like 4 to 5 seconds, like an action is happening, and to keep the viewer interested, engaged. Now I think it's moving. Some of these like creators that have been becoming famous lately, like this guy Sam Sulik, who's I don't watch his videos. I watch like Colin and Samir to keep up with the creator economy. So I like, you know, I'm interested in this stuff. But he's just recording. He's doing no editing, anything. He's just recording, going to the gym and coming home, and just like pretty much letting the camera roll the whole time, more or less. And it's like an hour and a half long. It's like a whole, and people are watching it and entertained by it. And I see it going there too. So I'd agree with you.
Crazy. I didn't know, and I'm gonna look at it. And the second thing is live. So I think not only will the recorded, edited stuff be longer and just breathe longer, and come out less frequently. I think the other thing is going to be like these water cooler, watershed moments that people are going to tune into, right? I think, that's going to be the thing. I'm going to try.
Cookie's good, right?
Yeah. Did we get the same flavors?
Yeah. It's a great cookie. I'm excited for you guys to try it. Okay. Who would you say your favorite person, YouTube channel or creator in general is, like, that you are always locked into their videos, excited for that next video to come out?
I'm not excited necessarily for his videos, but I've said this publicly that Mr. Beast is my idol. And you know what I mean? Not his content is one thing, you know, just way he was able to create an entire new industry around his content. In addition to that, just how laser focused he is. I mean, he's a young man, 24, I believe, that he already had a clear understanding of what he needs to index on and how he's just so obsessive about everything that he does. For a 10-minute video, this dude is spending movie budgets, you know, and I think that level of dedication and obsession is something that is a trait that a lot of the greats have. And whether you like his videos or not, I mean, I have friends that just, you know, publicly and privately say, yo, this shit corny, you know what I mean? But corny or not is not my concern. You know what I mean? I think just looking at it holistically, yo, is very inspirational.
1000% agree. How could you not be inspired by this guy? He's paved the way for it's incredible what he's done. It's like almost unreal.
Yeah.
And also how many people he's inspired. Do you guys know how he got started? His start, how he became a YouTuber? It's pretty interesting.
I think I heard it in the Rogan podcast, but can you remind us?
So, I mean, he wanted to be a YouTuber, right?
Yeah.
So he thought, what are ways he could do this? So he just thought of ridiculous ways he could get views. And his dedication is just insane. So one of the videos he made is, okay, in this video, I'm going to say PewDiePie 100,000 times. He just says PewDiePie, PewDiePie. In this video, I'm going to do this 100,000 times. Or I'm going to count to 100,000, I think one of them was. But just something ridiculous like that. And then from that, and then just built his way up. It's great. That's how he got started. And I see his inspiration now on TikTok. I don't know if you guys see this, but like in my TikTok, I saw like the other day, drinking a gallon of water with chopsticks.
Yeah.
That's directly inspired by Mr. Beast. This kid sits in front of a gallon of water and drinks it with chopsticks. Like, you know, how much water can you drink with chopsticks?
Right.
And then another kid I saw is, I'm going to watch a clock for 24 hours. He put his phone on a time lapse, just like for 24 hours. You see the clock spin.
He's birthed this whole like stunt shock, challenge driven content, but I think they're only looking at that from a very surface level. Like they're looking at it like, how can I capitalize on this programming, you know, style that obviously has a lot of retention and a lot of engagement. But I think what they're missing is just how he is essentially shape-shifting industries. And we talk about this all the time. It's just that he is in many ways moving like how Walt Disney would move if, you know, Walt Disney existed in 2024.
Yeah, I mean, he has a data analytics company that breaks down retention for your YouTubers. He's trying to take out vid stats.
He has a dubbing company where he hires Japanese anime voice actors to dub his content because he felt like there's a huge market potential. Same thing, he does that with telenovela actors to dub his things in Spanish. So I'm like, who was ever thinking about YouTube videos in that way?
Yeah, so it's much larger than it. It's crazy because the glacier, the iceberg, right? It's big up top, but it's even bigger.
Yeah. And then on top of that, he puts all his money back into his business and pays all his friends and like.
Yeah. So I mean, who are you subscribed to? I guess.
I mean, Mr. Beast. I do watch his videos, even though candidly I do. You know, it's not necessarily my cup of tea, but I think it's important to watch. It's like a case study on like the top YouTuber right now, doing what he's doing.
So yo. Hit us up anytime, man.
Yeah.
Holla at us.
Appreciate it. Thanks for having me on this podcast. It's been fun. I feel like we could just keep talking for hours.
100%.
It's such an interesting topic, the creative economy. So